introduction. It's my pleasure to introduce Jill Jacobs. Jill is the Executive Director of the National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities. Jill?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me have a few words here today. I'll just speak a tiny bit. I don't feel like me taking up time and space is always the best idea. We need to hear from everybody else. So I wanted to just talk about the fact that we're really proud that we've got so many folks registered for this today. It's such a great learning opportunity every year. We were just saying before everyone arrived that, we know that that ITAC's training institute is always the best. We just have to say it. I love what the opportunities that are offered every year, and so I think what makes us the best is that well, we've got Cheryl and Amy. Of course, we've got that. We've got Sarah Newell Perez, who always guides us so well. We certainly appreciate all of that. And Jack, we appreciate that guidance and information and knowledge and wisdom that comes to us from leadership. And most importantly, what we have fantastic speakers from across the country, from our councils across the country, people that represent the councils at all levels in every state and territory. You all bring information to us, and then some of you say, yes, we have information we want to share. We can do training, we can do technical assistance for this institute. And so we've got the best and the brightest in this room. The fact that it is peer kind of work is just absolutely invaluable. So I want to thank everyone that's here today, the ITAC leadership, Cheryl and Amy, Sarah Newell Perez, and all of the committee, the NACDD's planning committee, council members from across the country that helped out. I also want to, of course, thank the Administration on Disabilities and the Administration for Community Living. We really appreciate you. So welcome to the Training of the Gods, the Olympics of Training, the ITAC training, the TAI Institute 2025. And with that, I will introduce Mary Lazar. Mary is the Principal Deputy Administrator. Mary?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you so much. And it's actually a privilege and an honor to be with all of you today, because we, of course, admire the work that you do, the change makers that you are, and the passion. And that's probably the most exciting thing to talk about, is your passion and the work that you're doing. And I do want to recognize and thank you for also recognizing Sarah Newell Perez and all the activity that ACL does to support your work. And I was at another conference yesterday, and someone was saying, hey, we so much appreciate all that you do. And I said, hey, listen, this is a true partnership, and I'm speaking to you all today to say the same thing. We do our best, but you and your councils, that's the ground. That's the groundwork. That's where people are feeling the impact of the work and the touch. And so we so appreciate you and congratulate you as well on the work that you have accomplished. So I was told by Sarah and others, anticipate people certainly want to know what's going on at ACL. And there's just a whole lot going on here that I can't tell you one thing about right now. So I hope you will all understand that we are certainly bound by rules. And so we can't talk about the budget, but I can tell you it is forthcoming. So stay tuned. The budget will come out, and it'll have all kinds of information in it, and it'll certainly answer a lot of questions that you have right now, as far as ACL and what things are going on with programs and so forth. Again, nothing that I can discuss today. Sorry about that, but once the budget comes out, we also have an injunction at the moment, so we're prohibited from discussing anything publicly. So unfortunately, that's the state of the state today, and we're looking for when the things are lifted and we're all able to talk about what's going on. But that doesn't take away from Doesn't take a thing away from this. And I have said this repeatedly. It doesn't make an ounce of difference what letters or letterhead are over our heads and what's going on. Excuse me, one sec. What's going on? Oh, she said my camera's off. Ah, we can fix that. I have helper right over my shoulder. I didn't know the camera was off. But I'll continue while they're trying to fix the camera. The thing that's important to know is no matter what letters are over our head, what the letterhead is, or anything like that, the same passionate people that you've been working with from ACL are here, and they're going to continue the same work, the same passion. So just hold on, folks. You'll see their great work will continue. But I do want to take this opportunity also to acknowledge your work and things that perhaps we can work on together. And one of those things may sound a little surprising to you, is marketing. You might be thinking, marketing? What does marketing have to do with all our work? Well, too many times we hear people say, oh, I didn't know about that. How do I find out about that? Oh, I wish I had known that this service was available to me or to my family. And we know we've got to do a better job of getting, and we want to work with you and all our other stakeholders. How do we get the word out to people of what's available? And it's not so much of what ACL has,
Okay,
but what you are doing. How do we get that word out to people? And so that's one of the things that we are going to work on, is how do we get information into the hands of people better? Because you know even better than as well, I guess, as we do, that when families are in need, they want information now. And so we want to make sure that that's available to them and they know where to turn. Your great work has certainly been instrumental in that, but we want to make that even more improved than what we have been experiencing. So that's one thing. Another thing is, you may have noticed things are moving a little faster here in DC than they normally do. We are on a track, we're on a treadmill, and it's on full speed. So if you've ever been on a treadmill and you keep wanting to press that button to slow things down, well, basically that button's been taken away from us and we're on full speed and we are going. So let's apply that to our grant work. We have sometimes had grants that are 5 years and so forth. We are moving our grants to 3-year grants, unless it's a brand new thing and we're standing up a big center or something like that. We're moving our grants to 3 years because we want to see things happen sooner. We want things that, demonstration programs, discretionary grants. We want to see those things happen even sooner. We want to assume the same thing that our administration is assuming, and that is we don't have time to respond. Needs are now, so let's get going. So that's what we're applying here at ACL as well. We want to get this programs and services and things happening even sooner and quicker. So we are moving grants to 3 years, and that'll just put us on a cycle of just delivering on a little faster scale. On our grants, I'm sure that you have heard from Sarah and Jennifer Johnson and others. We talk more and more about outcome measures, not just outputs, in terms of how many people have you served is an output. How did it change their life is an outcome. And that's exactly what we want to report more and more on, because that's what sustains us. That is what sustains us. And there's more and more conversation here every day at HHS on how will we measure what is happening with the money, the grant money that goes out the door. What's the return on the work that people are producing? And so we want to make sure that we're able to report the wonderful things that councils are doing. It's that important. And so we'll be working with you. And you actually have already been doing a lot of that stuff. And they shared with me, I'm just looking at some of the wonderful things that the councils have done: self-advocacy and leadership development. that you have been providing training and support to people with developmental disabilities and to families to develop their advocacy skills. I have been in so many meetings with people who are they are self advocates, and it's absolutely amazing how well and articulate and assertive people are in advocating for others, advocating for themselves. It's phenomenal. And you've got to measure 62% of participants comprised of individuals with developmental disabilities and their families experienced a measurable improvement in their advocacy. So that's a statement in terms of what that training has done. 15% of training participants have also become involved in cross-disability coalitions, which let me share with you on a moment on that. Collaborations. I'm sure as a council members and leaders, you've experienced this, but when you work in collaboration with others, you just get more momentum, you get more done, you have more success. And so literally, I would encourage you, anytime you're in a conference, you're in a meeting, and you don't know the person next to you or whatever, just put your hand out and say, hey, I'm Mary. Who are you? What do you do? How can we work together? That's what we want to know. How can we work together? You would be, I shouldn't say you'd be surprised because I know you're already doing it, but I'm always surprised when I say, hi, I'm Mary Lazare, and you're at a networking reception or whatever, and someone says to you, oh, hey, I've heard about ACL, or I've heard about this. Hey, yeah, let's sit down and talk. Next thing you know, you come up with 10 more ideas of something to do. So I cannot encourage you enough. Never let an opportunity pass you to just reach out and ask somebody, hey, can we just sit down and talk about an opportunity that may exist for both of us to work together? It just seems to always work. And I can't tell you how great some of your outcomes have been. Our Secretary Kennedy has certainly initiated the whole MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. And certainly the councils have a big role in that. And it's a shout out to DD councils that you have helped move the needle on healthy living. So in particular, I'm looking at this one in regards to the Mississippi DD Council. Project Grow. Anybody with Mississippi on the call today? This is a shout out to you. This Project Grow initiative assists and trains people with developmental disabilities on the benefits of healthy nutrition, guiding strategies to shopping, and preparing healthy meals in the kitchen. I think I need to go to that class, by the way. I could use that training. I had popcorn and an apple, I think, for lunch today. I probably need to do a little better with protein and the like. But this is phenomenal kind of training. And I'm reading about an individual who was talking about how she's cooking and advocating for herself, grocery shopping, doing all of this. This is the change makers that you are. And isn't it awesome and exciting to be a change maker? And we're in awe of some of the things that you are accomplishing with people out there every single day. The other one I thought was interesting was South Carolina DD Council Life Skills Club. I myself have a sister. I'm a sibling of a person with a IDD. And I'm so happy to say, when she was very young, maybe 10 or 12, I can remember my parents coming home and telling all of us, well, they say Kathy, she won't live a long life. She won't be able to do this. She won't be able to do that. She had jobs. She had a very full life and still continues. She's 70 years old. When she was 30, she wasn't going to live. When she was 40, she's not going to live much longer. When she was 50, she's not going to live much longer. But it was life skills and DD councils that helped my parents and helped her. And I can tell you, she is a very strong advocate for herself to this day. And it's to groups like that. So the Life Skill Club provides support and opportunities to increase independence. and particularly cooking, grocery shopping, hygiene, healthy living, social skills, and practical household tasks. My sister was able to do all of those things, even when my parents were told she probably won't. So it's that it was certainly shoring them up, but most importantly, it was Kathy learned so much from going and participating. And it was phenomenal. So back to marketing. But I remember all throughout the years, my parents saying, I wish I had known about this. I wish I had known about that. So as well as Kathy did, there was more out there for her. They just didn't know how to access it. No one told them, or hidden gems are held in captivity in certain geographic areas. And so here's what I'm going to say next. So besides marketing, scale, being able to scale programs and bring them broader. So we read in grants applications all the time. We want to develop this program that's scalable. And that's great. So DD councils, please bring those best practices forward and spread them. I mean, consider yourselves, spreaders. I'm going to use that term, but spread these wonderful programs, because you go to a conference and you hear about these great model programs and the new up and coming things, and they do spread, but pretend like we're all on fire. And if you don't spread quicker and faster, it's going to go away. We just have to have some sense of speed and urgency about spreading these wonderful dynamic programs, because if they're scalable and they have good outcome measures, get everybody to benefit by them. And if you think, well, I'm still waiting for the next best thing, take the next best thing and then scale, modify. But when you hear about something wonderful, find a way to make it happen and market it. And when I say market, it's like find out, work with others. Can you broadcast my message? How do I get this out? Is there a PSA in your town? Is there local little papers to just put little articles in? I know social media has certainly been a great tool for all of us to use, but just don't give up, because I know you have to hear the same thing. I didn't know that you existed. I didn't know who to turn to. And we've got to do a better job of getting that message out. And so I'm saying to you, we're going to dedicate more time and attention and effort to working with all of our stakeholders of brainstorming, hey, how else do we get this information out to people? So I've mentioned to you marketing, I've mentioned to you grants, I've mentioned to you about scaling, I've mentioned to you about outcome measures. All of this is important. And I've mentioned to you collaboration. You're masters at all of this. I just want to share with you again, pretend like the world's on fire. And how do you put these fires out quicker and faster? We are, all of us at ACL, we are in awe of the work that you have been doing. We look forward with great expectations and hope that you bring even more to scale. And we're going to commit, I'm saying to you, we're going to commit even with more velocity. How do we help you spread those good services and programs and information farther and wider to improve the impact? We just want people with the services that you have to reach everybody who needs them and reach them even sooner. You all know about early intervention. The earlier the interventions, the better the outcomes. So that's, I guess, what we're trying to achieve. And I'm looking at a lot of faces on the screen and I think, wow, look, I see your resiliency, your love for what you do on your faces. And again, thank you for that. Know that we are your partners. Like I say, wherever we are still your partners. these people have phenomenal passion. It's not going to go away because somebody might make a change in a title or an agency or whatever. We're not going away, folks, because the need's out there and we're going to be there to respond. So again, let's make America as healthy and as independent as we can together to keep those people active, vibrant, and contributing members of our communities. So on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to your presenters, and thank you again for all that you do. Hopefully we
Mary,
can talk about things in the future very soon. Have a great
Mary,
rest of your meeting.
Mary, thank you so much for your leadership. Many of us on staff had an opportunity to work with you during Trump's first term. We are glad you came back from retirement to get
Thank
your
you.
guidance. So thank you. And Mary, as you recall, made a focus on output and outcomes. And this is going to be a good segue to highlight the latest output and outcomes. And we're going to talk about how we can improve reporting. So with that, I'm going to have Sarah. We're going to pull up the slides and we're going to highlight different reporting measures from the recent PPR reporting. Sarah, we'll advance to the next slide.
Next slide. Next slide. One more. All right, great. Thank you, David, and hello, everyone. Over the next few slides, we'll review preliminary data specific to the FY24 PPR. This pie chart here shows that councils continue to work in each area of emphasis, with the top three being community support, quality assurance, and employment. The rest of the goals are pretty evenly distributed, except for recreation and childcare goals at 3% and 2% respectively. Next slide. So next we'll look at the various strategies councils have used to implement their goals. This chart shows that the top three strategies were training, supporting and educating communities, and outreach. We've noticed that strategies shift from year to year, which is to be expected depending on the stage of the 5-year planning cycle. Next slide. This slide depicts individual and family advocacy data. It's always great to receive performance measures data showing how stakeholders have been impacted by the work of the DD councils. So as the council network, you reported that 166,758 people are better able to say what they want and what is important to them. 154,662 people participated in advocacy activities. 29,618 people are on cross-disability coalitions or governing boards, serving in leadership positions, and 17,686 people have increased advocacy after attending council activities during the FY24 reporting period. Next slide. In terms of systems change data, as reported by the network, people trained and educated by council activities was by far the top systems change activity reported. Several councils also reported systems change involving other organizations, implementing promising practices, and implementing a policy, procedure, statute, or regulation due to council efforts. As mentioned at the start, this is all preliminary data, as Jack and I continue to follow up with councils on any potential outliers. Now I would like to turn it over to Jack Brandt, who will talk more about the overall council network strengths and areas for improvement identified for this PPR. Jack?
Thank you, Sarah. We are going to share some strengths from the PPRs. Overall, councils are making progress on achieving the 5-year goals. Councils continue to expand their accessibility efforts by providing resources and products in plain language. From Sarah's review of the preliminary PPR data, it showed that the DD Council network has broad outreach in all areas of emphasis. Councils have collaborative efforts with DD network partners and other stakeholders driving impact. Councils continue to educate policymakers on critical issues. Next slide. We realized that councils utilized a fillable PDF to complete the PPR this year, and we want to thank you for your cooperation. Here are some opportunities for improving the PPR. Please provide succinct impact narratives of state plan activities. Please only enter numbers in the performance measure section and provide the written explanation in the narrative. When reporting survey data, please ensure that the number of survey respondents and participants in the performance measures are accurate and that the number of respondents does not exceed the number of participants. Please be aware of repetition and responses from one section to the next. Please ensure that activities reported in the PPR are within the reporting period timeframe. Your program specialist will follow up with any council feedback. Next slide. To assist councils in completing the PPR, ITAC provides resources and they can be found on the ITAC website or at the links provided on this slide. Please know that we will share the slides with you. You can reach out to your program specialist for any information. We encourage you to share ideas about future trainings that would help you.
I
I would like to hand it over to David.
Thank you, Jack. Next slide. So behind the output data and the outcome data, we know that there's a story behind each of those numbers. And this is where we wanted to talk through a little bit. As Mary said, it is so important to market the information that we have so others can be informed. Next slide. One of the things that we do here at the federal level is we inform our senior leaders, and of course, we inform Congress. And we kind of throw out a net in how we get these stories. And we just wanted to share with you the different strategies that we adopt. Of course, the program performance reports is the leading vehicle in which we comb through the reports. One of the things that you probably don't know is that we actually put all those stories in an Excel document. And then when it comes time to find a topic area, that's how we search it. So it is very important that you do put in good quality stories in your PPRs. Recently, I did ask to share your DD Council annual reports. That is not something required for you to submit to us. We know you share it with your state stakeholders, but we appreciate those councils that did share with us their annual reports. One of the things that I found that was very nice is when you have pictures next to those stories, it kind of really humanizes that story and you find that connection. On a more technology standpoint, one of them actually had one of those scan codes, so you could put an iPhone next to it. And I thought that was really neat. And also, whenever you can visualize your data with like a pie chart or a bar chart, that really is impactful. A picture can be worth 1,000 words. We've also been receiving DD Council newsletter listservs, and that's always nice to receive. And so if we are not on your listserv, please include us, at least your program officer. We've also been getting outreach from council members sharing with us something they're proud of in their council. Please keep bringing those forward, those stories. And the other way that we've often been hearing about innovative impact stories is participating in conferences and hearing through panel discussions. I recall one of them was with NACDD conference where we heard about how ABLE accounts were being adopted and integrated with the council work in Illinois. I think the key thing to remember is as busy as you are, it is very important to capture the impact of what you do with a narrative. Next slide. When I started about 5 years ago, we did work with a communication consulting firm, and this is a good reminder as to what is a good narrative. Oftentimes, they're very concise, and it's 3 different parts. First, what was the problem? Briefly describing the problem you are trying to solve and why, and you have statistics to describe that challenge. Then you could pivot to what did we do? What actually did the council do to address that problem? Who was involved? Who did you partner with? What role did the council play? And then finally, the outcome. What happened as a result? Did it change lives? Did a policy change? And so there are things that are oftentimes helpful to think about when you develop your narratives. Next slide. So folks may not be aware, but in July, we're going to be celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so one of the things I wanted to do was find a narrative that captures council work in the ADA space. And so it did pull up on the work that the Tennessee DD Council is doing around advancing and improving accessibility. And what I did was I just took excerpts from that. And ultimately what I find is in these narratives, there are two kinds. There's systemic. So usually with the systemic, it focused on, numbers or a policy. And then we have the humanistic lens, and we'll talk about that slide next. But from a systemic lens, just to highlight, one of the things that the Tennessee DD Council has done was they captured by telling the story of how they were able to advance accessibility by improving the accessibility at rest stop by including adult changing tables. So what they've done was they've integrated good numbers, and they were indicating that they're trying to make bathrooms accessible for more than 200,000 Tennesseans, and also the progress they're making. In 2019, there were 0 adult changing tables in state facilities, and in 2023, there were 50 tables, and how many are planned down the road. So I think that is really a good example of systemic lens, where you use data to tell your story. On the other hand, next slide, using that same information, you can also tell the story through the human lens. And we worked with the Tennessee DD Council, and from one of the 200,000 people, there's an individual named Elena. And we were able to capture her story of how the impact of the DD Council work had made a difference. And it's really powerful because we're able to learn the story behind the data as to how Elena was, experiencing limitation and traveling far from her home because the rest stop did not have universal changing tables. And as a result of the work of the Tennessee DD Council, Elena feels she can travel more freely to visit new places, see new people, experience new things. So know your audience sometimes in how you frame your story. And I think that can really help with your marketing efforts. Next slide. One of the things that we're trying to do at the federal level is really better package our quantitative and qualitative data. And so we've actually developed fact sheets. And so we partnered together to develop the State Council Developmental Disabilities fact sheet. We also have one for USAID, the State P&A program, and Project of National Significance. So we will have these slides available in a few weeks, in about a week's time after they get made 508 compliant. But we want to make sure that we realize the importance of packaging the data. So next slide. If you recall, Mary mentioned in her opening remarks about the importance of collaboration, working together. Working together gives you more momentum. And the other key thing that is important right now is efficiency. And efficiency is a key term because if we have limited resources, how do we maximize our resources to achieve impact? So let's go to the next slide. The spirit of the DD Act is emphasizing collaboration among the DD network to improve services, supports, and opportunities for individuals with IDD. And what I'd like to do is just take a moment to highlight some of the examples that we've been seeing in our reporting of how the DD network is collaborating together. We've seen it with joint advocacy initiative. DD network partners collaborate on state policy initiatives to promote inclusive education, employment, and accessible housing. We've seen coordinated training programs. DD network partners working together to jointly and develop training for service providers and community organizations. And we've even seen cross-training among DD network staff, and that is good to see. Public awareness campaigns, like Mary said, talking about how you coordinate your messaging. And we've seen that with the National Disability Employment Awareness Month in October, and also the ADA Awareness Month in July. So working together to collaborate your message in a state is great. Next slide. These are other examples. If you recall, last year we talked about how the Hawaii DD network really kind of, came together in response to the Maui wildfire response. And so that's another example of how DD Network collaboration is having impact in state. Information resource sharing. DD Network partners exchange resources and data to identify service gaps and coordinate efforts to address them. And we're going to drill down on that very shortly with the Tennessee DD Network. And finally, leadership development programs. DD Network jointly coordinating training to empower self-advocates. Next slide. One of my favorite quotes is, coming together at the beginning, keeping together at progress, working together is success. And I think the DD Network in any state can probably find out where they may fall in this picture. Sometimes there may be a transition with a new, official on board, and it may take time for collaboration to happening. But I wanted to share that, back in July of 2023, I received a joint letter from the Tennessee DD Network informing me about a joint needs assessment agreement. And to me, when I got that letter, that was an example of how the Tennessee DD Network was working together. And in that letter, they shared a goal that they want to align the DD Network's understanding of the Tennessean needs. They wanted to streamline effort to collaborate, collect input from Tennesseans, and they wanted to collaborate across the network to support Tennesseans. And so after getting that letter, we, as federal staff wanted to learn more. We engaged with them. And this was something that was always something that I was proud of in seeing how the Tennessee DD Network was collaborating together. As it relates to a needs assessment, this conversation is timely because we know that the DD Council are getting ready to prepare for their 5-year state plan next year. And so we wanted to have a dialogue with the Tennessee DD Network. And so we are going to, I'd like to introduce the Tennessee DD Network right now. So, and we can put it on panel mode, and they can nod when I recognize them. We have Lauren Piercy, the Executive Director from the Tennessee Council on Developmental Disability. She assumed her role in 2022. We have Anna Bass, Executive Director from the Disability Rights Tennessee. She's the newest member of the group. She started March of 2025 in her role. We have Bruce Kielsing from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center, USED. And Tennessee is unique in that it has 2 USEDs. And the other USED is the Vanderbilt Kennedy USED. They have co-directors. We have Julie Lowndes Taylor. She's the co-director along with Pablo Juarez. And so let's bring in the panel, and we are going to have a quick discussion to talk about how they work together on their needs assessment.
Thank you, David. While we're getting set up here, and let me just ask, do you want us to be shorter than 30 minutes given time?
Sure. Let me ask a few questions, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So I think, it's just taking a step back, and maybe this question might be for Bruce. Can you describe to us the barrier at hand, prior to the joint survey tool being implemented? What was the challenge or the barrier that the state was experiencing?
Sure, and thanks for this opportunity to be able to share with everyone today. We never really framed this idea of coming up with a joint needs assessment as a problem, but more of a missed opportunity to collaborate. Like all of you, we're required to do periodic needs assessments of the community, and we thought, what a nice way to integrate all of that together and maybe reduce the survey burden that Tennesseans experience from all of our organizations and more. I think kind of thinking along the terms in terms of marketing as well, Tennesseans often are really familiar with each of our individual organizations, but don't know as much about us as a network and how we work together through shared joint projects and have a lot of aspects of our missions that are aligned pretty nicely. So we thought a survey put together would help market us as a collective and make us more familiar to different groups across the state. We wanted to decrease duplication of questions that people get asked over and over again by disability organizations like ours. And we realized each of us had particular personnel and skill sets that were different from each other. And it was a real opportunity to leverage those to find the best combination of who likes to create surveys and ask questions, who likes to disseminate information. How do we disseminate that? How do we collect data and analyze it? So it was an opportunity for us to meet over time, to familiarize ourselves with each other's personnel and skill sets, and think creatively about how we could leverage those together to create a product that over time we hope Tennessee will see as the disability needs survey that comes out periodically for everyone to fill out and complete together. Some of the challenges that were involved included helping each of us understand each other's organizations better. As people have mentioned, we're on different time frames in terms of our funding cycles and reporting requirements. We needed to understand which areas of emphasis each of our programs had and made sure that a survey included all of those. Some organizations have different reporting requirements. So for example, the P&As have to ask questions more broadly than IDD. They need to include things about mental health, traumatic brain injury, abuse and neglect. Programs had different areas of focus depending on their communities. Here in Memphis, we have a large focus on relative caregiving, and we wanted to make sure that was included in the survey. Vanderbilt's been spending time thinking about and doing research with regards to what belonging means in communities, so we wanted items to reflect that as well. Anna, just to throw it to you as well, you had mentioned thinking about ways to pair up reporting periods so that we might be able to do this more easily over time.
So one of the things that we're hoping now that we've gotten the results from this particular initiative is I've been able to talk to our board of directors and be able to align our particular cycle with the council's state planning cycle, which will be able to better align the policy initiatives, especially in a more concerted and strategic way. So that will hopefully we'll see a better result for Tennesseans in being able to align that. And also we've been able to stretch our cycle. Ours has always been a 3-year cycle, and we're going to move it to a 5-year cycle. So being able to have an actual dialogue about how that planning happens, I think is going to be a very positive benefit for Tennesseans.
Yeah, so I think it really wasn't as many challenges as one might suspect. It was more of a series of meetings and getting to know each other's systems, requirements, assets, personnel, and interests, and then just finding ways where we can find enough common ground, and then doing other little supplementary pieces for any areas that we might want to add in addition to that. But it's been a real, not only hotbed of collaboration, but it's really starting to spur some ideas about where we could collaborate as the needs of Tennesseans change over time.
Lauren, at the council director and with your peers on the phone, are there any key insights or takeaways you'd like to share from this experience?
Yeah, thank you. As you can see, we have a really great group here in Tennessee, and I think we are all relatively new. Dr. Kiesling has been around in his role longer than any of the rest of us, but all of the rest of us have worked at our programs for many, many years, but are relatively new to the executive director or leadership roles. So honestly, it was one of those things when we all started talking and going to dinners together and getting to know each other, we started having fresh ideas almost on accident, just because we hadn't been in our roles very long. And so to be perfectly honest with everyone, we actually didn't realize this joint needs assessment was a new idea or that we would be the first state to do it. The first thing we did was just start asking, how do we do this? Which other states have done this? And we were surprised that no one had. So we will gladly work out all the kinks for you all and share everything that can be replicated. But I would say taking that fresh look and just thinking to all the problems that Bruce laid out or missed opportunities, how can we work harder, not smarter? Other way, smarter, not harder, together. And then how can we all have a single sheet of music that we all have the same understanding of what Tennesseans' needs are? That was a huge goal. And then I think the secret sauce part is just really maintaining a closeness. We all not only respect each other as peers, but we really like each other. And if you can forge that, at least the respect part, I think everything else flows from there.
Julie, what had been the feedback from customers about the survey tool? Anything that came back from the customer, the Tennesseans that completed the survey?
Yeah, in general, it seemed to work pretty well and people were happy with it. But the reason for that is because we spent a lot of time on the front end, not only really making sure that our questions were answering what we wanted to answer and were understandable, working with our partners who really had access, and we did too, but had a lot of access to people to help us understand the accessibility of our measures, making sure that the questions weren't worded too difficultly, and that we were able to, translate them into different languages, have them in ASL, different things like that, to make sure that we could measure what we were wanting to measure. So I would say the feedback was generally good to people who took the survey, but it was because we really spent a lot of time partnering together and working on the front end to make sure that once we launched the survey out in the field, that we were going to get the information that we wanted to get, and that as many people as possible were going to be able to fill out the survey because it was going to be accessible. It was a lot of work to get to that point, I think, and well worth it to make sure that we could include as many perspectives as possible. I'll say the other piece that we got in terms of feedback, which I think was not direct feedback, but indirect feedback when we were sharing the first initial findings, was that we got information on the needs of our state and what people, Tennesseans with disabilities, were saying were things that our state should focus on in areas of unmet need. But oftentimes they were sort of pretty general, things like housing or things like transportation. And from the survey and from 1,500 responses who were checking off boxes, it was sort of hard for us to tell exactly what that meant, and really drilling down to sort of specific actionable activities that would really address needs. And so in addition to the survey, we actually conducted focus groups with about 50 people across the state, and built off of our survey results for those focus groups. So to say, for example, for housing, this was identified as a need. Tell us what that means to you. Where is a need for you in this area? What are things that we could be doing as a network or as service systems to help address those needs? And so that was sort of, I would say, not direct feedback from people who filled out the survey, but as we were starting to look at our responses coming in, we were like, this is really helpful, and this gives us sort of a big picture view. But to really make this actionable, we need to drill deeper, and we need to understand in people's own voices kind of what these needs mean to them. And so we were able to use the focus groups to really drill deep and get, I think, a lot of context around sort of like the big picture findings that we have, to really make sure that we're moving in a direction across all of our partners that are going to meet the needs of people in our state.
Once you've identified the gaps, can you give an example of where the network partners collaborated together to make things better?
Julie, I can take this one. We're not at the point yet where we're acting together, because we're just gathering the data now. We don't even have a report, and all of us are on different timelines. But an example that I wanted to highlight from doing this separately but still working together over the last 20 plus years is that one of the things that comes up consistently, no matter what these specific issues are that fluctuate throughout our state, there is an underlying theme of it's too hard to find information about services, period. The navigating the complex system of disability services in Tennessee is an underlying theme. So we partnered together to have the state's one and only information and referral center just dedicated to disability services. And it has not only a searchable website, but a call helpline, which is really the part that makes it, I think, very special, including multicultural and, outreach for non-English speakers, outreach for rural areas, that you can get a human being who kind of gets you. They've walked the walk, they have lived experience, they have navigated our system in Tennessee, and that helpline can help give information and referral services, a little more handholding in some cases, but just the basic, I'm pointing you in the right direction, come back to me if you hit a snag, has been, I think, one of the most important things we've done as a DD network, and that we're constantly continuing to innovate. And so I do want to mention that data that we get back is a constant needs assessment, because every time someone visits the website or calls that helpline, we're hearing what Tennesseans need. So we are factoring in that data to complement what Julie just talked about with the survey results and the focus groups. We're also going to use all of our intake data, including the PNA's intake line and the information referral source that we just talked about. So that adds tens of thousands of data points to the narrower slices that we get when someone selects to fill out a survey or participate in a focus group.
Lauren, thank you. I want to make sure Pablo has the last word. We're a little bit over time. Pablo, any general observation you'd like to share?
I'll make it quick. As Lauren said, Julie and I have not been in our roles here at the Vanderbilt Kennedy Center for a long time, but we have been able to collaborate with a lot of the folks on this call prior to that and since then. And there's a lot in the works in terms of what we're all working on together. So some of the things that we know from the needs assessment, and we're still kind of combing through how to report some of that, but there are big needs around housing, mental health and wellness, and medical care and therapies within our state. We're all collaborating in those areas in some ways, and certainly doing our own work in those ways, across schools, across residential homes. And so we spend a lot of time talking about these issues and topics and generating actual projects that come out. And one of the things that I think really makes our work within the state so important is that we are also entrenched within state systems. We work really well within our state systems here in Tennessee, particularly across programs or departments like the Tennessee Department of Education, Tennessee Department of Disabilities and Aging. We're starting to do more work within the Department of Children's Services here in Tennessee. There's a lot of work to do there, as you can imagine. But, we are entrenched within state systems, and not only are we entrenched in those state systems, but we're entrenched in those state systems together, which provides a lot of strength because we all have different avenues that we can really push in terms of prioritizing policy shifts and changes that have to happen within and across systems. And it's really identifying those gaps between systems that I think we're really good at as a network, and then trying to figure out how to fix those.
Pablo, thank you. And thank you to the full panel. Again, this is an example of how when you have collaboration, you get more momentum. So thank you very much for your time. And we appreciate you. And I hope it sets a good example for other state DD networks. So thank you. So at this time, we are going to go back to the presentation mode. We are a little bit off on time, and I think we can maybe be flexible to have remarks from Jennifer Johnson, our acting commissioner for AOD, and we can provide, administrative updates by email after. Jennifer, would you like to give some remarks at this time?
Sure, I'd be happy to, and thank you, David. And it's great to be here with you all today and to have the opportunity to join you and appreciate all the work that has gone into preparing for this Technical Assistance Institute. And also thanks to not only all of you for the work that you do, but also for joining us today. And hopefully it's been helpful updates and information to receive. So I want to just take a few minutes here to share a little bit about what we've been working on and lift up some of the incredible efforts that have been happening across our funded projects that we are primarily funding under our projects of national significance. As Mary said, even though there are still a lot of unknowns and questions that we're waiting to have answered in terms of the HHS reorg, our work continues, and that includes the work that is funded through our projects of national significance. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the exciting work that's being done through these projects, which are all rooted in our priorities of promoting health equity, achieving economic security, protecting rights and preventing abuse, and empowering individuals and families and communities. I think what's important about these and why I wanted to share the updates with you on the projects is that these are all really projects with resources that you can tap into. So in the first priority area, promoting health equity, we have a project called PATH, which has been making meaningful progress over the years of their grant. They're in their last year by working with universities and health systems to ensure that we have more health professionals who are trained and ready to provide quality healthcare to people with IDD. And it's really this kind of capacity building that makes a real difference on the ground for people with IDD and their families. We also continue to invest in our project on youth healthcare transition, which has created a wide range of tools for youth, families, and providers to support their healthcare transitions. And many of these have been developed by youth and for youth. And they also have a youth leadership part of their project, which is, as we all know, very powerful. We continue to fund the Link Center, which has really become a national resource hub on people with co-occurring IDD and mental health disabilities, and they really use a trauma-informed care approach in the work that they do. They've hosted over 24 learning sessions, which has reached about 12,000 people. And they're also helping states implement lessons learned through a 988 Policy Academy to create inclusive crisis set call lines for that can support people with IDD who are in crisis. They've also partnered with over 200 professionals across the country on very complex issues related to people with co-occurring IDD and mental health disabilities, including how to better support them to live well and stay in the community. Another important project for us is the Center for Dignity and Healthcare and Community Living. And they have, over the course of their grant, really built a strong base of partners and have developed tools to assess organizational inclusion practices and have trained nearly 1,000 professionals on topics ranging from reproductive health to disability policy. In the area of achieving economic security, we are also seeing real momentum there. Our community collaborations for employment grants are in 7 states where they're working deeply in their communities to improve transition planning for youth with IDD. And some of the things that these states have done and the state teams is hosted job fairs, developed customized school and district transition plans, and increased tools like employment dashboards and resource libraries. Together, they really help people get real jobs and really help them build towards the future. We also continue to fund our employment longitudinal study, which is known for its annual Blue Book that it publishes that reports on trends in competitive integrated employment. And this work continues to help inform policy decisions in the state and has helped more than 20 states move forward on employment first policies. And we continue to fund the Disability Employment TA Center, which has really grown as a resource, not only for the AOD grantees, but for many others. They offer webinars that have now reached hundreds each session. They have e-learning communities and really a massive resource bank. They've also provided tailored technical assistance that grantees are really finding to be transformative and helpful. So it's really been a great go-to workforce resource for workforce development strategies. Under the area of protecting rights and preventing abuse, this is always an important area of our work, and in terms of health and safety and ensuring people know about their rights and have their rights protected, and also that people can lead self-determined lives. We have been funding the Center for Youth Voice, Youth Choice, which is really making a big difference in promoting alternatives to guardianship. They've supported multi-stakeholders teams in over a dozen states, and they've had a really successful youth ambassadors program and have produced a whole lot of resources, all aimed at helping young people lead their own lives with support and not without taking away their ability or their decision making. We also continue to fund the Direct Care Workforce Strategies Center, which is helping states tackle the direct care workforce crisis with targeted technical assistance and new technical assistance pathways and a growing resource library. In their work, they're collaborating across systems and bringing different groups together, including aging, disability, Medicaid, and labor to create workforce plans that are both strategic and sustainable. We also, under this priority area, have our grassroots project, which is empowering people with disabilities to speak up and shape the systems that serve them. So through this project, they've strengthened peer connections and community partnerships through support of state and local coalitions. They are providing open office hours and TA tools to these coalitions and other partners that are involved in the project, and are also increasing leadership training. And this work is all supported and guided by a national coalition comprised of 10 disability organizations, including an ACD. In the area of priority area of empowering individuals, families, and communities, we are focused in that area on community living and empowerment of individuals. And under this priority area, we are continuing to support both the residential services information study and the state of the states study, which are our two longitudinal studies. The other one I mentioned is the employment one, but those are looking specifically at where people are living and then Medicaid expenditures. So they continue to provide essential data that really helps to shape national policy, including policy around home and community-based services and funding decisions. And the reports continue and the data continue to be used by many, including the CDC and the President's Committee for People with Intellectual Disabilities and other national groups to inform their work. We have continued to fund the Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center, or SARTAC, which has really been an outstanding project. They have been for a number of years now hosting weekly Zoom calls for self-advocates across the US to connect. They have offered fellowships to over 50 people that have led to real jobs for 20 people who have completed those fellowships. They have become a go-to resource on plain language communication and have trained over 1,300 people. Their website now hosts more than 1,000 accessible resources covering everything from safety to employment to relationships. Another project that we have been supporting is the Bridging Aging and Disability Project, which is led by NACDD. And they are supporting 17 state teams and building stronger connections with area agencies on aging and helping aging caregivers and people with IDD age in place and with dignity. They've also produced some great TA resources and peer learning opportunities. Finally, in this area, we're funding the Accessible Transportation Resource Center, which is building a national knowledge sharing network that is supporting peer learning. And also they are working directly with states and territories to make sure that transportation systems work for everyone, including people with disabilities and older adults. So clearly there's a lot of powerful work that is happening, and this was just a snapshot of that. But these projects are really lifting up what's possible when we invest in people, in communities, and in collaboration. I hope you'll take time to explore these resources and these projects more and connect with them, I think, and think about how they can support your goals in the months ahead in the work that you are doing. There is information on our website for many of these projects, which is acl.gov if you want to go and take a look there. So I want to just thank you again for being here today, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of those updates on the work that we've been investing in. And I'm looking forward to our continued partnership in the months to come. David, I'll turn it back over to you.
Jennifer, thank you for your awesome leadership. And we are going to be sharing the admin slide after our call. And so that will give you an update on the administrative angle. But we would like to open it up to questions for the time remaining. And Amy, if there are any questions in the chat, or if anybody had their hand raised, we would like to take this opportunity to answer questions.
Sure. Kristen Proud had a question in the chat that Sarah answered, so just wanted to draw attention to that.
Can you state the question and Sarah's answer so everyone is aware?
Sure. Kristen asked what was the status of a new platform for submitting the PPR going forward. And Sarah answered that you're exploring platform options. In the meantime, you'll continue with an interim solution, and then for fiscal year 26 state plan, annual work plan updates, you'll send out a document with instructions in June. I did receive a question about when Mary was speaking, she referenced grants that were moving from 5-year to 3-year time periods, and I was asked what those grants were. If you could.
Yeah, I can answer that question. What Mary was referring to is new projects that we are funding that are our discretionary projects. So like the projects that I just described, many of those will be 3-year projects, which is we've done those kinds of things in the past. Depending on the type of project, we might be funding it as a 1-year, a 3-year, or 5-year is typically what we do. The goal and the focus on having them as 3-year grants is really to be able to make an impact in a more immediate sort of time frame. And it kind of reflects what Mary was saying in terms of really looking at the outcomes that we're achieving and how we can really do that as rapidly as we can through our funded the investments that we're funding in our discretionary projects. So to be clear, it does not apply to like your work and the fact that you have 5-year plans. It does not apply to the university center grants, because again, those are 5-year grants. So it doesn't impact those things that in statute are required to be 5 years.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any guidance on new state plans that are due next year on the template or the content?
Let me help answer that question first, and Sarah can follow. On that particular question, there's been a work group that's been formed. They've been looking at strategy to streamline the state plan, and we will be submitting that revised state plan template to OMB later this fall. One thing you should be aware of, and we agree on, that you will not be reporting more. If anything, you will be reporting less, and that's the goal. Sarah, based on your work group, your collaboration with the work group who are DD Council members, anything to add?
I think you covered it, and certainly the slides will provide more information, but any sections that you feel like, gosh, I already answered that and it's really repetitive. We're trying to streamline those types of things, have drop-down boxes where applicable. In the PPR, you report on financial information that's already provided in the SF 425 financial report. So potentially considering eliminating that section in the PPR reporting. All of this will have to go through the OMB clearance process and get approval. So for now, we're staying the course, but those are just things the work group considered, and they are in our slide presentation. So we will get that out to all the councils. And certainly if you guys have any questions after you review it, we could either set up another time to talk about it, or just, feel free to give me a call or email.
Let's see. Will ACL put out a no-cost extension process for fiscal year 24 funding this summer?
Our goal is to release guidance this summer. And I know last year when the deadline for council to request their no-cost extension was end of August, we've just been going through a lot of hoops and hurdles lately. So our goal is to issue guidance this summer.
Great. Let's see. Real quick, just for everyone, I'm about to pop up a poll. If you wouldn't mind taking it, that'd be great. Another question, could we get a list of projects/programs that were mentioned by Jennifer, along with contact information for those implementing those projects?
Yeah, we can provide that to you all.
Great, thank you. One more question. What can you tell us about the forecasted RFP that was issued on grants.gov on Tuesday? It had DD Council performance measures.
I think the forecast that you're referencing, and thank you to whoever asked that, because I meant to include that in my remarks. There was the forecast that was probably posted that they were referencing is for a notice of funding opportunity that we plan to publish. And it is for a project on augmentative and alternative communication and peer support models for supporting the use of augmentative and alternative communication. So in that, we do reference, but they're P&S performance measures that are referenced in that. So I'm not sure if that's where they thought maybe DD Council, but yes, we did post that on Tuesday. And I can see if we can find a link to that so you guys can learn about that opportunity that we hope to be publishing soon.
Great, thank you. There are no other questions in the chat.
Well, Amy, thank you for moderating the question. Thank you all for joining this session. In building on Mary's remarks, again, I think, collaborating is key. We are stronger together. We have more momentum. Marketing our work, both from the data and the narrative story, is very critical. I see that there's going to be a session on social media. I hope you can join, because it is a new way for the new generation to get their information. And of course, please continue to share your best practices, bring them forward. It really does help move the needle in terms of the larger population knowing what we do. So thank you all for your great work. And I want to give a shout out to the NACDD ITAC team for facilitating this webinar in the background. So I wish you all a happy spring.
Thank you, Jennifer, David, Sarah, Jack, Mary. Thank you so much for presenting. We really appreciate it. Everyone, this wraps up the session. If you wouldn't mind completing the poll, we would be very happy about the feedback. The next session starts at 3 p.m. Eastern, and it is on supporting healthy communities. It has a different Zoom link, so you can find that link. It should be in your email if you registered for the session. And that's it. We'll see you in 30 minutes. Thank you.